people who didn't make it can come. So hello, everybody. This is the Health and Nutrition Club, and I am sharing my PowerPoint. If you can see the PowerPoint, please raise your hands. Okay, this is wonderful. So good to see you all. Let me go back to the beginning of this PowerPoint, and we will start from the very beginning. Okay, and let me move this off to one side. If anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute and ask and all that. I thought, given the apocalyptic fog or smog or smoke that we had the last couple of days, I would talk a little bit about homeopathy for stress. Because I just realized how much stress people have and they don't even recognize it. They're incarcerated in homes, a lot of people working from homes with 2, 3, 4 children at home, no school, no nannies, no daycare. And you can do it for about 10 or 15 days. You can do it for about 3 weeks, and then you start to get a little fatigued. As frequently as you would like, but at the very least, we'll do them twice a week. All right, so without further ado, we're going to talk about homeopathy remedies for these very unique times. One of the keynotes of homeopathy is the whole body, which is your body, mind, spirit, soul. Homeopathy does not make the distinction between what your mind is feeling and the mind that requires, say, SSRI, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or what your body is feeling, which could be acidity, it could be constipation, it could be diarrhea, and what your spirit is feeling. And so the fundamental point in life at all times for everybody to remember is we are one person. We are a mind, body, spirit, and self. We are even tied to others as one person. And what happens to the other person is affecting us at all times. What happens to our children, what happens to our mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters affects all of us. And that is part of the disease metabolism. That's part of what ails us or makes us joyful as well. And that's the beauty of homeopathy. It doesn't make the distinction between your mind, body, spirit, soul. And the thinking is everything starts from your mind. If you address the problem that's in your mind, in your spirit, you will address your bodily conditions as well. And at all times, we'll keep that in mind. So when all of this started in March, we thought it would last for 20 days. We didn't know it would last for months and months. We didn't know that we would be locked up and quarantined for now 7 months now. And so the stages of long-term emotional health that leads to physical problems actually start before the illness has occurred. And that is in anticipation. Any condition in life really is anticipation. And what's happening now is we're thinking, am I going to get it? Am I not going to get it? Will I get it now? Will I get it a month from now? And that alone is extremely stressful. The second stage is the actual illness, and we'll address that as well. When you actually fall sick, it could be COVID, it could be the flu, it could be a cough or a cold that you think is COVID, it could be heart disease, it could be cancer, complicated by the current times. And the third and last thing, which is very important and nobody really thinks too much about, is post-illness. After you've been sick for a while, a great debility enters into your psyche, and that's what we will address with homeopathic remedies today.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm serious. I feel I don't have stress.
Tell us about it. Tell us more about it, Ralph.
Tell you what?
Tell us more about it. Why are you happy?
Well,
why are you so happy?
Why I don't have stress?
Why you're so happy?
Well, I consider the source to begin with, and I'm just relaxed. You know, things are what they are, and If you can do something about it, fine. If you can't, you learn to accept it. I guess that's a serenity prayer, but I don't feel that I'm in a stressful situation at all anytime. Maybe for a few minutes during a news event or during a family conversation, there might be a little bit of stress, but it's very temporary.
There you go, folks. This is the key to longevity. This is how you get to be 95 years old.
Yeah, if they don't know,
And
I'm
sleep.
94, in 6 more years, I'll be 100.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. We love you, Ralph, and we're sending hugs your way. You guys, so one of the big triggers of stress is you don't understand everything. You listen to the news and you see someone died or 600 people died, and it triggers stress without a clear understanding of why it happened. And so it's very important, I think, for people to understand in their mind, body, and spirit what is going on, and to understand the totality of the situation. You know, with the C word, I'm gonna call it the, you know, this, I don't know what to call it, the Voldemort virus. I can't call it by the name because when I post it and if I use the C word, you know, there's always warning signs and fact checkers and such on our tails. So we're going to call it the Voldemort virus. And so not understanding the nature of the Voldemort virus. The first thing I will say is in nature, you guys, in nature, COVID has caused 99.7% of the people to be either asymptomatic or have either asymptomatic or have very little disease. So it's a very, very non-death causing disease, it turns out. We've turned something into a pandemic that does not have a hugely higher death rate than the flu. We've turned something into a pandemic that need not have been a pandemic. It is the method of treatment that has caused 90% of the deaths in hospitals, and that is ventilation. Ventilation for COVID, which is really a problem of the hemoglobin not being able to carry oxygen, has caused innumerable deaths in hospitals. The second thing that's caused a lot of miscounting of COVID is that hospitals who have no other business today except for COVID are getting $13,000 if they call something COVID. They're getting next to nothing if it's not COVID. So heart attacks, cancers, chemotoxicity, paralysis, ketoacidosis, a lot of things get called COVID when the person dies. A lot of people die with COVID, not from COVID, because they have tested positive for COVID antibodies or COVID PCR. You know why a lot of people test positive? Because they have been taking flu shots. And people who take flu shots have coronaviruses in their body or fragments of coronaviruses in their body. So a lot of people test positive. So this person dies of a heart attack, and then they test them and they say, oh yeah, COVID positive, let's put that death down to COVID. So it's greatly overstated, especially in the United States. So that's the number one thing I want you to remember. In nature, COVID kills less than 0.5% of the population. In hospitals, COVID kills 90% of the population. And of course, part of the issue is the serious cases go to hospitals, but hospitals have not figured out a treatment plan, which is why homeopathy is so important. Keep your bryonia, your aconitum's, your gelsemiums, your phosphorus, your lycopodiums, your pulsatillas on hand, please, so that at the first sign of illness, you take your remedies, you abort the illness, and it does not go to the next step. I can guarantee you, everyone that I've worked probably with over 100 people now in these last 7 months, people who got sick, people who started to get headaches, people who worked with other COVID positive people. They started taking their remedies. They were sick maybe for a day or 2 or 3, aborted, got better, did not have to go to hospital, did not trigger ventilators and so on. So The first thing is to understand that this is not an epidemic. I mean, it's not a pandemic. It has not killed as many people as we think. It is completely, children don't die from the COVID. Very, very, very small mortality rate. So, but yet children are incarcerated at homes, they can't go to school. University students don't really get sick, yet they can't go to university. And what's happening is we have put our life on hold for the sake of a little tiny RNA virus that's got us by our kahunas. And it didn't get us by our kahunas for 6 weeks. It didn't get us for 7 weeks. It's now been 7 months of lockdown. So if anything is gonna kill you, it is not Voldemort the virus. It is the effect of anticipating it. It is what happens afterwards, after all of this is done, after people have lost their jobs, after men and women have gotten into fights from living in very close proximity without any outlets, without exercise, people who are scared of going out the door. So what I would say is, number one, get a walk every day. In California, no one's stopping you from going out and walking. Go take a walk, go without a mask for your walk, but do respect all the other people around you. If they want you to wear a mask near them, you can do that, but get fresh air in as much as it's possible to get fresh air in this kind of climate. Get fresh air, eat good food. You have access to your Civic Center Farmers Market, you have access to very good food in Marin, eat organically. Eat anti-stress foods like fats. So you wanna eat lots of raw fats. You want to eat green vegetables, raw fats, butter, lard, tallow. These are brain foods, these are hormone foods, and these are what help you cope with stress. Your hormones help you cope with stress. And the hormones are made from cholesterol. You need lots of cholesterol in your diet right now. So if nothing else, if you can do nothing else, I would say eat 5 egg yolks daily.
Excuse me, may I add one thing? This is Sunshine. Yeah. The air quality is so bad. Please wear a good mask if you're going for a walk.
Very good point. Wear a mask for the air quality, not for the virus. Very, very good point, yes. But get exercise. Eat food that's laden with cholesterol. Cholesterol is anti-infective, it is antiviral, it is antibacterial, it is anti-cancer. People are having acidity. People are not sleeping well. Fats will change all that for you. So eat lots of fats and lots of cholesterol. Second, understand the nature of the death of this virus. Very, very small portion of the people worldwide have died. You guys have been amazing. You guys have been in excellent health, largely because of your diets, largely because you are parasympathetic. Sunshine's parasympathetic behavior has sort of permeated to everybody, largely because you guys don't fear sunshine, you don't fear walks, and you have your community around you. But the key to stress is to understand the whole picture. Understand the totality. There are many people who have called and complained about wearing masks for 8 hours a day because they are at work and they have to wear masks and they feel shortness of breath. They have air hunger. The remedy for that is carbo-vegetablus. And I'm doing a run this week or next with Washington Homeopathy. If you have any stuff you need purchased, please let me know. I'll buy it for you and send it over to you. Carbo-vegetablus 6C, keep it in your purse. If the days get really bad, like it is right now, it's pretty damn smoky. And if you're wearing a mask and you feel shortness of breath, if you feel lifeless, if you see someone's fingers turning blue or cyanosed, your child feels collapsed or faints easily in this air, or if you're asthmatic, there's nothing as wonderful as carbo-vegetablus to get you back to life. You have loss of vitality. Don't reach for your, what's that? Okay. If you have blueness, coldness, or loss of vitality, if you feel weighted down, If you have a sudden loss of memory, low pulse but a hot head, that is carbo vegetabilis. Please carry it in your purse if you're a mask wearing person who has to wear a mask for work or wears it 8 hours a day or feels suffocated in mask. So if you're a child, give your children carbo vegetabilis 60. A lot of people are on antidepressants today. And let me tell you that homeopathy has some of the most wonderful antidepressants you could want, need, or use. Verbena is a remedy that you can use as a tincture every 8 hours. You could use it in low potency, which is a 6C, every 3 or 4 or 6 hours. And when the key with these remedies is you stop using them when you start to feel better. It will help you wean yourself from antidepressants. If you have nervous depression, if you have depression with epilepsy, it will help to brighten your mental powers. If you have constipation or bruising along with it, if you're the kind of person that tends to have hives from poison oak, and you're depressed, verbena is a wonderful, wonderful remedy. In homeopathy, there are 2 types of remedies. One are polychrests, and by polycrest, it's good to know a little bit about homeopathic remedies. Polycrests are things that act in many ways. They act on your brain, your body, your heart, your spirit, your muscles. So they have activity in many spheres of your body, mind, spirit, and soul. And then there are the organ remedies. And what I'm going to walk you through is some polycrests for stress and dealing with the times, and some organopathics, which are small remedies that focus exactly on the symptoms rather than the whole body. And verbena is a small remedy which is very acutely directed towards people who are very depressed. So if you're very depressed, if you're already on antidepressants, don't get off the antidepressants right away, but try verbena because it'll help you with your moods. Your brain will just cheer up. It'll brighten up your brain and help you wean off of antidepressants. Another remedy that is wonderful is called Tanacetum vulgare. Tanacetum is the remedy which is half alive and half dead all over. You see that leaf? Half dead, half alive. You have exhilaration one moment and you feel you can conquer the world. The next moment you have nervousness. And the reason I'm giving you all these different remedies is because no one person is the same. I mean, no 2 people are the same. Everyone has their issues coming from a different place in their life. Some people get stressed or tense if they don't go for a walk. Some people get stressed or tense if they don't get good food to eat. Some people get stressed if they cannot be with their pack of friends. Everybody is different, and therefore homeopathy has different remedies for different types of conditions. Tanacetum vulgare is a organ remedy, organopathic remedy, acts very acutely in cases where you feel half dead, half alive, you're unable to fix your attention on anything, there's great mental fatigue. And people who need tanacetum, someone needs to mute their phone, and I'm not sure who that is. If you could please mute your phone, that would be great. Okay, so Tanacetum vulgare is the remedy if you feel worse in a closed room, if you're nervous and tired, if you have tremors, if your hands shake. It's a wonderful, wonderful remedy. And you feel hopeful sometimes and completely hopeless at other times. Dose, tincture every 8 hours, or low potency. You can take it in a 6 or 30 potency, and you can take it as frequently as needed and as infrequently as you feel better. There's someone here who needs to mute their phone, guys. Yes, I think this one. Okay, done. Excellent, excellent. Okay, next remedy is, has been traditionally used. This is called alfalfa. It's been traditionally used for loss of appetite for children. Malnourishment, where what you eat never gets digested. When you have nervous indigestion and loss of weight, but it's loss of weight from not eating. It's loss of weight from not having an appetite. You have a craving for sweets and chocolate and ice cream, but you don't really feel like eating regular meals. And you're gloomy. You feel dull, drowsy, gloomy, dark, black. There's a loss of weight. There's neurasthenia with insomnia, meaning you have numbness, you have tingling, you have lack of sleep. And when you have a family member who has neurasthenia, they're not going to tell you they have neurasthenia, but you can see their hands tremble a little bit. They might have numbness of their feet or numbness of hands, and they have a craving for sweets and other things, other chocolate, sweets, ice cream, but they don't like regular meals. And many women are like that. Many women in their 40s, 50s, 60s just don't feel hungry, but they would like a pint of ice cream at night, and they're very depressed, or they're feeling gloomy or dull. Alfalfa is a great remedy for that. You can take a tincture every 8 hours. You can take a potency of 6 if you can't find a tincture. And I think 6 or 12 is a great potency to use for feelings of gloominess and darkness in some of these times. The next remedy is debility after exhausting disease. So remember, we talked about, let me go back. We talked about the stages. The first one was anticipation. You think you're gonna get ill, you are incarcerated, you're feeling gloomy, your brother, sister, or family member or friend got the Voldemort virus, and you have stress and anxiety from that. That's number one. Number two is you actually fall ill. When you actually fall ill, and after your illness, and especially in this particular illness, there's a lot of debility post-illness. A lot of people do not feel the same after their illness, and they're sort of shunted out of the medical system because, wow, you survived, everything is good, you don't have to worry, but that's when you really have to worry. And that's what some of these remedies are for. Debility after exhausting disease. It's a great tonic. Alstonia scolaris or constrictus is the wonderful, wonderful pick-me-up after you've had exhausting fevers, after you've had diarrhea with watery stools, after, as part of this viral illness, you got diarrhea. So remember that it's expressing itself in the entire world very, very differently. In Europe, we're finding people have dry, hacking coughs and respiratory disease. In the subcontinents, in the tropical subcontinents, and in the US as well, there's a lot of digestive disorders. There's diarrhea, there's vomiting. If you have debility after a diarrheic disease, after vomiting, then Alstonia scolaris is your remedy for debility from all of this illness. And don't expect it to get better immediately. Expect to pay heed and attention to your body, mind, and spirit after it's all over, because that's when you really need the homeopathic remedies.
Sushma, I have a quick question. I don't have any of these conditions, but I noticed for the dosage, you put out a tincture or a tablet with either a 6C or 12C or 30C or whatever. Mm-hmm. Is one more powerful than the other, or one more appropriate?
Yes, a very, very good question. The lower the potency, the more frequently you can take it. So I would say if you have acute problems, buy the lower potencies and take them more frequently. Like the lower potencies you can take once every 3 or 4 hours if it's acute debility. You can take it every 6 or 7 hours if it's acute debility. The 200 Cs I would take for severe digestive problems that exist after your disease is over. For great debility, say you still can't digest, you still can't assimilate your food. In this case, you would get the 200C, which is higher powered, higher potency.
What about the difference in tincture versus the dosage of the tablets?
You can get tinctures that are very low potency and tinctures that are higher potencies. Generally speaking, in the US, you tend to get more pill forms than tinctures. But if you're in Europe, if you're in Hawaii, I don't know what is more available, so I just put it out there. But I would go either with the tincture or with the pills, which can be in various potencies, ranging from the X, which is the 10X and the 10 times potency, or the C's, which are 100 times potencies. But I would say get the lower potencies for frequent use, and the very high potencies if you've been terribly sick and you have debilitating weakness, digestive weakness after a disease.
Sushma?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Sushma?
Yep.
It says inability to assimilate. Does that mean inability to digest, like
Yes.
me?
Yes, absolutely. This is a wonderful, wonderful tonic for you.
So what would be the low dose for taking it often for me?
6C or lower, 6C or lower, the lowest you can find.
6C in a pill form.
And pill form, yeah, 6C or lower. There's X's as well, but the lower doses would be very, very good. And
6C.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions? Anemia, if you have anemia, if you have low hemoglobin levels, if you're not getting enough minerals. I have noticed that there are some people I know who are on proton pump inhibitors. They have acidity and they cannot assimilate food. For them, longer term, this is a wonderful thing. It'll help them wean away from antacids, actually, proton pump inhibitors, which are deadly. Proton pump inhibitors are deadly, deadly, deadly for your health. And nobody in the Health and Nutrition Club should be taking those, I hope. All right, you get an all gone feeling after you've had your diarrhea. So imagine this, you were working, your compatriots got ill, and all of a sudden you start cramping, you have diarrhea for 3 days, and then you start to feel better. A week later, you're still not yourself. A week after that, you just still feel very, very weak. Every week you tend to have one small diarrhea and you just don't feel yourself. And you're depressed, you're depressed. You feel like there's nothing in your body holding you together anymore. That is Alstonia scleratus. All right. This is a wonderful remedy for nervous exhaustion. You see, Alstonia was a great remedy for debility, which includes nervous exhaustion, but also great physical debility. This is Avena sativa is a wonderful remedy for nervous exhaustion. For people who've had pertussis, a whooping cough. We know someone who's had whooping cough for a long, long time. You get better and you just don't feel the same afterwards. Your legs feel weak. You feel paralytic after a disease. This can cause weakness in legs. This can cause tottering legs. Nervous states in many females, especially females in the perimenopausal, premenopausal, menopausal, and postmenopausal ages, where you just don't feel yourself. You just feel nervous. You feel worried about things you should not feel worried about. When you get nervous, your hands get weak. Like you cannot hold this glass of water in your hand without fear of dropping it. You become butterfingers. Your legs feel paralyzed. That's Avena sativa. If you're an alcoholic, there's insomnia in alcoholics. If you have all these conditions and you continue to have a little runny nose, acute runny nose, take Avena sativa in hot water and take it frequently, and you will have a cure. If you are addicted to morphine, if you know people are addicted to morphine or other sedative type drugs, Avena sativa is a great remedy to wean them off. If it's been a chronic stage, then go with the higher potencies, but generally speaking, small potencies, low and slow is wonderful for nervous exhaustion. And one of the things I would say is people are very sympathetic towards you when you're sick, right? Your friend brings you a soup, your neighbor comes in and hangs out with you when you have 101 fever. And then the minute you're out of that zone, you're all alone. You're all alone, all by yourself. And that's when you have true debility. You could use friendship. You could use more cups of soups. You're literally not paralyzed, but weak and nervously weak from your sickness for months afterwards. So understand that this can happen to you. Understand that you need to be kind to yourself and you need to seek all the help you can get. Ask your neighbors to help you with chicken soup when that happens. Ask your neighbors to buy you some butter and eat it. If you don't have the energy to shop, get someone to shop for you. That's a vena sativa, nervous exhaustion, especially after you've had the Voldemort virus, if you've had pertussis, if you've had throat infections that have gone on, you have chest infections, you have pneumonia, and are very weak. This is when you are so exhausted or tired or weak that, or grief-stricken, that you are contemplating going up to heaven. You want to join your mate, your spouse, your dog, your dad, your mom in heaven. Someone just passed away, your best friend just died, and you're saying, you know, why am I here? If a family member's feeling like that, if a family member is like, was it Eeyore or Tigger, sorry, in the cartoons? The sad one. I don't remember, but that cartoon character that feels really, really
Eeyore.
sad.
It's Eeyore.
Eeyore. There you go. If you're feeling like Eeyore, if you feel life is not worth living, if you're contemplating doom, people have lost their businesses in this environment. People had, I know someone, a restaurant in Sebastopol, KNL, they were planning on retiring. They were going to sell their restaurant that they'd had for years and years and years for about $1.5 million and then go off and retire to Portugal. In the last 7 months, they're almost bankrupted. They're almost bankrupted, and now they have nothing. This is after years and years of laboring. All of a sudden, you feel self-condemnation. You feel responsible for the things going wrong with the world. You feel you let your family down by losing your job. You feel like there's nothing left to live for. These are the people who are grief-stricken, sob aloud in their sleep. They have frightful dreams. And it's a deep, deep sort of grief. Very good for men who are not able to express themselves too good. Metallicum. It worked very well for Richard after his dad passed away. He was in a great, I could literally see it. When he was very, very low, I would give Metallicum in 24 hours. I gave him a low dose, 30C. 24 hours, he would cheer up. In 48 hours, he would be back in business. He would still be feeling sad, but he would not feel like life had no meaning. So I'm describing a picture of these remedies so that you will have this PowerPoint, you will look at these symptoms, and you'll develop an image of what this is, and you'll be able to take it yourself. For serious issues, 200C. For low and slow, I would use the 30C. This is a wonderful remedy, Califos, and it's especially good for women. Women are constantly worrying. They're worrying about their children. Once their children are grown up, they worry about their grandchildren. Once their grandchildren are grown up, they start worrying about their spouses or their friends or their neighbors. They're doing things. They're caretakers. They tend to people in their illness. They're the ones who are bringing in jars of soup to people when they themselves could use a rest and a helping hand. Califos is a great remedy, especially for this environment where you are feeling like you're not in control, you're feeling weak, you have brain fatigue, you have night terrors, you might be sleepwalking. It's hard to do physical work. You're just so tired. You want to lay in bed and your sympathetic nervous system is disturbed. You're worried about business. You're worried about whether your husband will have his job or not. Actually, he doesn't have a job and you're worried about how you're going to pay your mortgage. All these are worries that serve to make this person very, very nervous and have nervous symptoms. You have tingling in your hands, numbness in your feet, and you can't think too good, and you can't bring yourself to do a whole lot of stuff. Kali Phos is the big pick-me-up. And in this instance, if you're feeling really weak, worried, nervous, and tired, go with the 200C, folks. I would recommend Kali Phos 200C, especially if you're a woman with a lot of responsibilities. You don't have the totality. Totality is the wrong word. You don't feel in control. You feel like there's too many moving parts that you have no control over, and you're absorbing all of that stress. That's Kali Phos. Men too.
So Shama, a question, because I'm thinking of a friend who these symptoms seem to respond to or relate to, but you mentioned that it's especially for women. So I'm wondering what you're using as a differentiation.
What I'm using for differentiation is how people express it. It could be a man. It could very well be a man. The Aurum person tends to be much more introverted. They tend to be very responsible people to whom things have happened, and they're in a very, very bad place. They have self-condemnation. The Kali Phos person does not have self-condemnation. The Kali Phos person is just nervous and tired from low lifetime worries, or a long period of worries, which is what this is. So it's very applicable to men and women who've been worried for 7 months in a row and there's no end in sight. You know, it's not like you had to go and shovel, mounds of dirt every single day. It's this low level of stress. It's this low level of constantly fretting over things. That's Kali Phos. Very applicable to men as well as women, if it fits. The reason I mention women is women tend to be caretakers as well. And this gets them there to Kali Phos, a Kali Phos state. Did I answer your question, Land?
It does. Thank you very much.
Okay. The next remedy is a polychrest. And so let me go back. Let me go back and tell you that these remedies here, alpha-alpha, tenacetum vulgare, verbena, carbovegetalis is a little bit more polychrest, but verbena, tenacetum vulgare, alfalfa, Alstonia scalaris, for exhaustion after, say, diarrhea, watery stools, Avena sativa, exhaustion after whooping cough, diphtheria, debilitating respiratory pneumonias. These were all small organ remedies. So they act very specifically on your mind, on your neurosthetic states, your insomnia, and so on. Aurum metallicum is a polychrest, meaning it has a much bigger sphere of action. It acts on people with certain characteristic traits. So that's the difference between a polychrest and organ-specific remedy.
I have a question which I've asked before, but I'm asking it again.
Okay.
My short-term memory is following you exactly. Each time you focus on something, I get the whole picture, even get a sense of the person, all the rest of the stuff. Then I go away from it, and maybe a half hour later, I said, what did she say? And I have to go back to this. So I'm wondering if you have any further guidelines. I guess it's for learning would be my question. Do I need to take some kind of homeopathics for learning or what?
Yes. Very, very good question. Excellente question, Land. What you want to do after this is take that word, Aurum metallicum, go to any materia medica on the internet, which is free. A lot of materia medicas are free, and Google Aurum metallicum. And what it'll show you is the whole picture, not just these 5 lines. It'll give you the whole picture. And if it fits, And there are different writers who have written it in different ways, different homeopaths who have practiced with this medicine in different ways. They'll tell you clinical cases. They will tell you how it acts. They will tell you how it acts upon the skin. So you see a complete picture. And if it fits, take it. Don't worry too much about being wrong, about being half right, half wrong. Just do it and see how you feel.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, the best thing about homeopathy, folks, is it's not antibiotics, it's not chemotherapy, it's not radiation, it's not steroids. It will not kill you. At worst, you overdose and nothing happens. You're okay. At best, you feel better. So experiment a little. What I find when I work with people with families is certain remedies apply to that person. So whatever happens to them, if they take that remedy, they get better. That is their constitutional, so to speak. But it's going to take you a while to figure that out. And you will. But it's well worth it. Because you won't go to hospital. You will not get ventilated. You will not get intubated. And you will not wait until the last moment before you seek treatment. The purpose of homeopathy is not to not make you sick as much as to abort it so you don't die from stuff. You know, you see what I'm saying? You need sickness. Homeopathy says you need sickness in order to develop your immune system. You have your innate immune system, you have your humoral immune system, your antibody-mediated immune system, and your immune system, which must have bugs. You need germs in your life to figure out and strengthen your immune system. All homeopathy is doing is, it's when a bug hits, it's saying, hey, that's the bug, and it's directing your immune system towards that bug so that you don't fall like a bunch of ninepins. You're able to deal with it.
I'm assuming that you're saying that you don't necessarily court illness so that you can learn how to use homeopathy.
Yes. Yes. You don't have to go out and breathe in the Voldemort fumes, but if you were hit with them, feel no fear. Feel absolutely no fear. Be completely at peace and know that you'll be able to kick it. Because 3/4 of illness is right here. If you feel you can get over it, you will. If you know what you're doing, you will. And so then you'll go from a very panic-laden illness that gets more and more and more serious, and you end up in hospital, to something that was like a small little illness.
Let me extend this
That's
one.
what
I'm sorry, let me extend it one more step. This idea with the mind, does that work the same way in taking homeopathics? That you say, this is going to work for me, or does it not, as you mentioned with your dog or with other people who don't make an evaluation?
Yes, the placebo effect. Very good question. So many people have said, gee, the silly little sugar pills are nothing but placebo. The placebo effect of any medicine, if in homeopathy at least, what they've determined through research is if that's 50%, 250% is the therapeutic effect, and 50% of that is the placebo effect. And that's the case in, say, Prozac. Prozac is 80% placebo effect and 20% effect of the drug, but that 20% effect of the drug is what? Anyone take a guess? It's extremely toxic. It's extremely toxic. So what's happening with every medication you take is the doctor's telling you, wow, I'm your doctor, I know what I'm doing, and you're gonna get well. That's the placebo effect. And the doctor gives you the pill, and the placebo effect of that pill is acting. But after that, an allopathic drug actually does very different things than a homeopathic drug. An allopathic drug is suppressing your symptoms. A homeopathic drug is a drug that's actually causing the same symptoms in a healthy person that you got. So for instance, in a healthy person, organopathics is gonna give them suicidal tendencies. They're gonna feel like killing themselves. And you're giving, if you feel like killing yourself, you're giving yourself organopathics, which takes away, which cures, which helps to ameliorate that condition. So what you're saying then is, In homeopathy, you respect the life force. You respect your body. If your body is sending you a message, homeopathy is actually amplifying the message. It's not suppressing it. And by amplifying the message is the curative. That is how the curative powers of homeopathy are exerted. And then the other thing is that the dogs, they don't care whether it's a drug or homeopathy or whatever, it works with dogs. So that's the non-placebo effect, but I'm sure there's a placebo effect in everything you do. If you touch someone with love and say, you're gonna get well, confidently, they will get well. That is how powerful our vital force is. And in any therapy, in any form of medicine, when you ignore that, when you ignore the body-mind-soul connection, then you are not administering good medicine. What you don't want is to have a cancer and someone say, oh, chemotherapy is going to help you, because there may be a placebo effect of chemotherapy, but the actual effect is so toxic because chemo is destroying all your living cells. And so it is actually suppressing your body's reaction to the disease. So by suppressing your body's reaction, it's going to come out in other ways, in worse cancers, mutant cancers, cancers that are resistant to chemotherapy. Alrighty. So Califos we did. It's a great nerve remedy. A wonderful remedy for these times of the Voldemort illness is Phosphoricum acidum. And to give you a picture, let me give you a story. There's a man, this is a man who's about, 45 years old. He worked really, really hard. He lives in the United States. He just had a small child. The child's keeping him awake all sorts of hours at night. He was never used to having children. He could barely do dishes or train diapers. He's having to get up every couple of hours. He wakes up and goes to work. His work situation is uncertain. A close family member of his dies. He dies in another country because of this shutdown, because of this quarantine. He cannot go to his dying dad's bedside. He is sitting here feeling grief, guilt, tiredness, exhaustion, and he cannot go to say goodbye to his dad, to hold his hand as his dad dies in a hospital someplace with no people there. His dad was a person who collected friends like honey around bees. And all of this has made him grief-stricken. All of this has made him weak. He can barely think. He's so sleep-deprived and so grief-stricken, he feels cold. He shudders with cold. He's overtaxed physically, mentally, emotionally. His brain, which used to work fine before, you ask him a question and he'll go, and then answer. He can't find words. He cannot collect thoughts or find the right words. He's debilitated. That's Phosphoricum acidum. It works beautifully, beautifully for the effects of grief and being overtaxed. And a homeopath by the name of Old Homeopath used the 18C potency with remarkable effects, So I would very much recommend you have Phosphoricum acidum 18C on hand and just try it when someone you see who's weakened from grief and debility. They cannot collect their thoughts or find the right words to express their grief and debility. They have troubles with memory and recall. They're confused and slow, and they're overtaxed physically, mentally, emotionally. And they are cold. They're cold. That's Phosphoricum acidum. Everyone should have this remedy on hand. Okay, this happened very recently. Someone called me up and said, a month ago, I woke up and I literally woke up with a feeling of doom. I thought I was dead. I was dying. If that person had taken a dose of Aconitum napellus, 200C or 1M, whatever that condition, underlying condition was, would have been ameliorated. When you have a shock, when you're faced with something that you don't have a totality of understanding of, when you have this feeling in your heart that the end is near, if you are having a heart attack, if you're in an accident, sudden, acute, violent, sudden pain, acute pain, violent pain, an intense fear of death, anguish of mind and body. This is not a low-level feeling. It is violent. It's anguished. You feel doom. You feel the end is near. You have great anxiety, fear, and restlessness, and your strength suddenly sinks. Cold, it's cold and dry, cold effects of cold and dry air. You're out without a jacket, and all of a sudden you just shiver and shake, and you just take a cold chill. You witness a murder, you witness something terrible happening. All of a sudden you have this feeling of doom and shock. Shock. That's aconitum napellus. And you should all be able to administer it because these are easy, easy things. Any questions on aconitum?
A question, and it may have to do with the idea I keep learning about homeopathics. If I see that a mass of people have these symptoms, or that seem to have the description of these symptoms, I want to maybe spray this stuff over them so they can soak it into their skin or something. Is there a way of doing it other than treating individuals with whatever there is going on?
My friend, there is. You've asked a very, very excellent question, Land, and that's exactly what Hanuman did when the scarlet fever epidemic was taking place in Europe in the 1800s. He literally went door to door with a water dose of belladonna, and he made people take a chug of it. And there were no deaths in his town. And the mortality rate from the disease was 50%, 40 to 60% in the other towns. That's when homeopathy became famous. When Cuba had thunderstorms and they and heavy duty rainfall, and they did not have the vaccine for leptospirosis, they made a homeopathic dose, water dose of leptospirosis, and they distributed it across an entire swath of the population. Infections went down 87%, way better than vaccines. So you can take a dose of aconitum in a little bottle, shake it, give people a sip as you walk along the path. You can put it in a spray bottle and spray it on their tongues. You can spray it on their palms, spray it into their mouths. If it's a dog, you can spray it up their butt, or it's a female dog, up the vulva in the back. You can spray it into people's gums. It will have effect. Very good question.
Great, thank you.
And it's going around a lot. It's I find that women with children today, many children are overburdened. The children are at home, and they have this constant fear that their kid will get sick and die. Where I'm telling them there's no mortality. It's almost guaranteed that your children probably had it and don't even know it, and you all got it, and the end is not near. But you can't stop these feelings. When that happens, you can take aconitum as frequently as you like, or as less as you like, but take aconitum and you'll feel better immediately. The problem is when people are in this situation, they forget. And the purpose of this discussion is for us to keep these things in our bag, our purse, our pocket, not next to cell phones, okay? But keep it handy so that when this happens, you have it on hand and you're calm and the other person gets calm. I've given this example over and over again when my partners, when Richard's dad passed away, they were extremely distraught. They came home, he and his brother came home and looked like they had seen ghosts. I gave them a 200 C dose of aconitum, and they said, okay, we're gonna go to sleep. They went to their respective rooms, slept for 3 hours. And these are guys who are insomniacs. And they came out, woke up, calmed down. So intense fear of death, anguish, shock, aconitum. All right, next one, LACHESIS mutans. This is a great remedy, especially for people, women who are postmenopausal, pre and postmenopausal. There's this great feeling of anxiety, and you cannot see this. My scarf, you cannot stand that. You cannot stand tight things around your neck. You cannot stand tight things around your waist. You have great loquacity. You're a talker. When you express your anxiety, you're talking. With that, there's headaches, there's migraines, you get palpitations at night, you get overheated, you get flashes of heat if you are stressed out about the Voldemort virus, if you're stressed out about your relationship with your husband, and so on. You have trembling and confusion, you forget. When all these symptoms come together, your answer is LACHESIS mutans. And I would say go with a dose of 200 C. You're very sensitive to touch. You get a very constricted feeling. You sleep into an aggravation. You'll hear that a lot. You fall asleep and bad things happen. You wake up coughing, you start snoring, you get chest pains. Horrible things happen when you fall asleep, so you don't sleep well. You're suspicious. You become suspicious by nature. You'll find a lot of women of a certain age, they're almost clairvoyant. They're thinking, oh, I know that person is out to get me. Oh, I know this is gonna be doomsday. And so they have a sort of a natural inherent suspicion in the system, a mistrust in the system, LACHESIS mutans. And
Okay. How can you distinguish between suspicion, as you described it, and true, I'm calling it intuition or ESP or other awareness of things using other senses?
Yes, very good point. It's a fine line. There are people, I personally know people who can call the future, who know that's about to happen. And sometimes they go off the deep end, but many times they make good calls. These are semi-clairvoyant people. They believe in gut instinct. And when they believe in gut instinct, they trust or they don't trust. And so it's a fine line, and there's a lot of that going on today. There are people who understand the totality of what's going on and mistrust the system. And there are people that may be taking a leap, that maybe are sensitive in an ESP sort of way. And you got to make the distinction between the two. And accompanying those are other symptoms. Great loquacity, so they talk a lot. They have palpitations, they have anxiety. When they sleep, they don't sleep well. So it's not just that one, it's a cluster of symptoms that goes together with LACHESIS mutans. You know, if they bleed, their bleeding is dark black, dark red. You know, they might get overheated. They might have trembling and confusion, and they have suspicion or mistrust in the system. So,
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, in homeopathy, you want to look at at least three symptoms, preferably emotional, mental, and physical, got to match for a remedy to match. But this is great for postmenopausal women. It's great for symptoms of menopause that have occurred in this period of quarantining, which are exacerbated. So as it is, women going through menopause are very sensitive. When this happens, something like this happens, they really need LACHESIS. And that'll address everything. Their anxieties, their depression, their hot flashes, their confusion, etc. All right. This is a wonderful remedy for grief, sadness, and anxiety. It's a little bit different than LACHESIS. LACHESIS is broiling, roiling feelings, whereas Ignatia is more sad and tearful and melancholic and weepy. These are the people who go like this. They yawn a lot. They sleep very lightly. When their child says something, they go, oh, Andrew, you did it again. They get very weepy, you know. They can't sleep. They're very light sleepers. They worry a lot. They weep very easily, and they tend to get sad, especially if they've had a sad occurrence, a death in their family. So there's a big difference between Ignatia and Organopathic. Organopathic is when you feel you've let people down. You have self-condemnation. You are so saddened that you want to die with that person. Ignatia is not suicidal. Remember, Ignatia is not suicidal. Ignatia feels terrible, grief-stricken, weepy, anxious when something bad has happened to their loved ones. They sigh a lot. They have insomnia from grief. When someone's passed away, you can't sleep, Ignatia. Dose of 200 all the way to a mil. You can also take smaller doses. And the doses, again, depend on your sensitivity. I can't quite say you should only take this dose or that dose. They depend upon your sensitivity, what you've been through in life, and how you react.
Sushma, another question. About some of these things, and again, I'm reflecting on not from me, but possibly me.
Mm-hmm.
If there's symptoms from two different descriptions you have for two different homeopathics,
Mm-hmm.
does that mean that I would necessarily take them in, or someone would take them in combination?
Sometimes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And there's schools of homeopathy that believe in just one medicine or polypharmacy. The truth is that we all have acute conditions, we have chronic conditions, and we have conditions in between. And nobody wants to wait for 6 months while they've tried this remedy and it didn't work before they go to the next one. And you will, once you become conversant with your own body, the purpose of all this is to make you very aware of yourself. And I see this remarkably. I see people who at first are completely oblivious to their symptoms. And then they say, okay, today I'm feeling this numbness from my knee all the way to my thigh. The left side of my shoulder really hurts. And at night, I'm not able to sleep until midnight. These are things that are happening to us, but we're just not aware of them. And once you become aware, folks, you'll be able to, with unerring accuracy, like bullseye, you'll be able to come to the right remedies. And there's no reason why you, a common person, should not be able to do that. You're pretty smart. All of you are pretty smart. Answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's Ignatia Amar. So there's, you know, I worked with someone who had infection, who had a staphylococcus infection, and they're getting arsenicum album, hypericum, in, 2 or 3 daily doses, relatively high, 200, and hepar sulf every other day. And it's a long-term staphylococcus infection. And it's curative. It works with people who have MRSA, it works with people who have severe bacterial infections, but you're applying 3 different remedies. That's a Banerjee protocol, actually. So what I wanted to say was, we never thought, first of all, how many of you thought this was ever gonna happen? How many of you have encountered this in your entire lives? I don't think any one of us is. Margaret?
What was the question?
The question is, did any of you ever think this would go on for 7 months?
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
No way.
This is
It's
the first,
just, you wake up in the morning and you wonder what's going to happen next.
yeah. This is the first time, literally in the history of mankind, that we've had this worldwide lockdown for a virus that did not kill very many people compared to cancer, heart disease, the plague, blah, 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 blah. And we've shut down the economy. We've taken away the unemployment rate right now in the US is what, 10%?
8%.
12%.
Yes, so 12 to 30, so it's nearly 40,000 people are unemployed. Every 1% drop in unemployment causes 58,000 deaths in an economy. And so that's 580,000 deaths just from shutting down the economy. And it's been going on. And the thing is, it's not gonna stop. Because once this has happened, we've gotten people used to this, it may well happen again. 400 million poor in India are starving to death right now.
Oh, no.
And in the US, a lot of us are retired. We have Social Security incomes. We have our own incomes. Think about the people who have families who don't have finances.
Yeah,
They can't.
don't have a job.
Have a job. And so this is, to us, this is just the beginning, folks. I would encourage you to give your neighbors the remedies they need if they're sick. Just like Lan said, take a spray bottle and spray people, you know, if they're
Do you have to say, open your mouth and put it on their tongue?
yes. I do that to the dogs. I do that to Roxy. She gets very annoyed, very irritated, but people might be open. So what I'm going to say is this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. What you want to do in life is to understand the totality of what you're faced with to reduce your stress and take the right remedies and take the time to read about it. I'm going to stop recording now. Stop sharing first. And then thank you, everybody. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to stop recording and then we can have a discussion.